So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the final session of today's conference. I hope you have enjoyed the conference so far. This session is titled Climate Resilience, Artificial Intelligence and Big Data in Risk Forecasting and Adaptation. May I invite Mr. Armstrong Cheng, Assistant Director, Forecasting and Warning Services of Hong Kong Observatory, to give his presentation. Please welcome Mr. Cheng.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Armstrong Chen from the Hong Kong Observatory. Thank you very much for inviting me to join this forum. Today, I'm going to tell you about the latest work of Hong Kong Observatory in using application of artificial intelligence in weather risk forecasting. Well, we are living in the Earth with changing climate that poses increasing risks to lives. Launched in 2022 by the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, Early Warning for All is a groundbreaking initiative to ensure that everyone on Earth is protected from hazardous weather, water and climate events through life-saving early warning systems. Early warning systems are urgently needed as climate change is causing more frequent and intense extreme weather events, resulting in widespread adverse impacts and related losses and damages to nature and people. Early warning systems are proven efficient and cost-effective way to save lives and jobs, land and infrastructure, and support long-term sustainability. The Early Warning for All initiative is built on 4 pillars to deliver effective and inclusive multi-hazard early warning systems. The delivery of early warnings for all requires scale-up and coordinated investments and action across 4 essential pillars of end-to-end people-centered multi-hazard early warning systems. Pillar 1 is about the disaster risk knowledge. Disaster risk knowledge is about the collection of data in a systematic way and to undertake risk assessment. Pillar 2, detection, observation, monitoring, analysis, and forecasting is about development of hazard monitoring and early warning services. Pillar 3, warning, dissemination, and communication is about building of national and community response capabilities. And finally, Pillar 4, preparedness and response capabilities, is about the communication of risk information and early warning. In the talk, I'm going to provide a brief introduction on the observatory's latest work in Pillar 2 with some highlights on the application of artificial intelligence on weather risk forecasting. Let's take a look at the climate trends in Hong Kong. According to the World Meteorological Organization, a specialized agency of the United Nations on climate and weather, 2024 was the warmest year on record globally. The past 10 years, 2015 to 2024, were also the 10 warmest years on record globally. Locally in Hong Kong, with a total of 11 months being warmer than usual, 2024 was the warmest year on record with the annual mean temperature reaching 24.8 degrees, 1.3 degrees above the 1991 to 2020 normals. The annual mean minimum temperature of 22.8 degrees and annual mean maximum temperature of 27.3 degrees were respectively the highest and second highest on record. In 2023, the total number of 54 very hot days ranked one of the highest on records, while in 2024, the number of very hot days was 52. That is one of the highest, one of the second highest on record. The number of hot nights with minimum temperature at the observatory headquarters equal to or higher than 28.0 degrees Celsius is getting more and more in recent years. In 2022, the number of extremely hot days, that is the maximum temperature equal to or higher than 35 degrees Celsius, also set a record high of 15 days, which is rather alarming. Regarding the highest hourly rainfall record, we can see on this chart that the record stayed at around 100 millimeters for quite some years from 1930 to around year 2000. However, the record was broken again and again in the past couple of decades. The record was broken to 115.1 millimeters in 2006, then 145.5 millimeter in 2008. In 2022, a new record of hourly rainfall at 158.1 millimeters was set during the black rainstorm in early September. In fact, in addition to new record for hourly rainfall, new records of 2-hour rainfall and 12-hour rainfall were also set in 2023 during the black rainstorm caused by the remnants of Tropical Cyclone Haikwei. And in October 2023, a total of 369.7 millimeter rainfall was recorded in the observatory headquarters. This sets a new record for the daily rainfall for October. In response to the changing climate, the government of Hong Kong, as Special Administrative Region, launched new strategies and initiatives to cope with the occurrence of more frequent extreme weather. The Chief Secretary announced in a press conference in 2024 that the government would adopt 4 strategies to cope with extreme weather. These include advanced emergency preparedness, enhanced early warning, decisive emergency response, and speedy recovery. These are the warnings operated by the Hong Kong Observatory. The warnings are issued when relevant natural hazard is imminent. The warnings are issued to prompt people for taking actions to mitigate the risks induced by the hazards. These warnings were usually issued when certain meteorological criteria are met or are expected to met in the near term. For example, the amber rainstorm warning signal will be issued when heavy rain exceeding 30 millimeters in an hour is expected to fall or it has already been recorded generally over Hong Kong. Ideally, it may be desirable to issue the weather warning well in advance to alert the people to take actions. However, because of the limitations in forecasting technology, there are uncertainty in the forecast. To alert users as early as possible about the possible potential occurrence of inclement weather taking into consideration of forecast uncertainties, a risk-based approach may help in this circumstance. Contrary to conventional weather warning that usually take into consideration of a fixed criteria only, risk-based alerts take into consideration of impact level as well as likelihood. In the diagram, there is a matrix with x-axis represents impact level and the y-axis represents likelihood of occurrence of severe weather. If a weather event with high impact is likely to happen, the weather event is regarded as high risk, and it falls into a red box in the matrix. The green box of low risk in the matrix represents weather events that have low societal impact and low probability of occurrence. So this is green in color, and so the risk is low. In the matrix, there are 2 remaining yellow boxes. One represents events that are likely to occur but relatively low impact. That is the box on the top left corner, on the top left corner here. The one on the lower right corner is the last one, but not the least one. It represents events that are likely to occur, but less likely to occur. But in case if it happens, it will bring high impact. This one is usually the most tricky one. When handling this kind of events with high impact but relatively low probability of occurrence, the risk acceptance level needs to be considered. And the risk appetite or tolerance may vary from user to user. Therefore, one of the merits of using risk-based alerts is that the risk matrix could be customized for individual users or use cases. Let's see a real-world example of a tropical cyclone here. Super Typhoon Conway in October last year. When Conway was still far away from the over the western North Pacific east of the Philippines, forecast tracks from computer models are quite divergent. You can see different tracks spreading over here and over to highland. At that time, the forecast models, the uncertainty is rather high. Basically, the model has no idea where it is going to move. But we can see that a portion of forecast members suggested that the storm will head to Taiwan, and this kind of track will not pose any direct threats to Hong Kong except very hot weather. So these are this kind of tracks. This is a quite large portion of tracks suggesting going to Taiwan here. No direct threat to Hong Kong except very hot weather. But there is also a portion of tracks suggesting that the storm is going to move to east of Hong Kong, taking landfall over Fujian or eastern Guangdong. This kind of track is not going to have significant threats to Hong Kong as well because of the terrain sheltering effect. This kind of track Hong Kong will be northerlies or basically northwesterlies. Because of the terrain sheltering effect, the wind speed is usually not very high. So this kind of track will not bring significant threats to Hong Kong unless it's moved very close to Hong Kong. But there is a small portion of tracks suggesting that it's moved to the western Guangdong or even highland. So in these kinds of tracks, Hong Kong will prevail by east to southeasterlies. We have no any shelters in the eastern directions or southeastern directions. So for this kind of track, the weather is expected to become bad for Hong Kong. So even though it is a smaller probability, but we have a high impact for this kind of tracks. So to provide early warning for users, especially those need longer lead time for preparation or risk mitigation, the Hong Kong Observatory developed a product that makes use of a risk matrix to facilitate users to make preparation work according to their risk appetite. So in this example, we can see the merits of risk-based approach over the traditional approach. In the risk-based approach, certain risk information can be delivered to the user even though the storm is still far away and the forecast uncertainty is high. In the traditional approach, even though users start to take actions when the standby signal number 1 is issued, the storm will certainly be much closer to Hong Kong, and thus the time window for their preparation work is much less compared with the risk-based approach. However, in the risk-based approach, the performance is usually limited by forecast uncertainty. So the problem goes back to how the forecast uncertainty can be minimized or reduced, bearing in mind that the example shown here is given by the state-of-the-art physical forecast model given by the European Center of Medium-Range Weather Forecast, which is a well-known center that produces the best forecast among the physical models. This is the limitations of the forecasting technology of the forecasting models. Well, fortunately, we see opportunities of reducing this kind of forecast uncertainty with the advancement of data science. A few papers were published in scientific journals about around 2022 that suggested the development of data-driven models. Traditionally, numerical weather prediction models like the European model uses the principle of atmospheric physics and dynamics combined with observation data to simulate future atmospheric movement through high-performance computers by solving complex physical equations to forecast future weather conditions. Due to the inherent chaos of the atmospheric system, the limitations of spatial and temporal resolution of observational data, and the approximate processing of numerical equations, the longer the forecast time, the greater the forecast error of the physical models. The AI models, on the contrary, uses a large amount of weather data in the past to train a large model through machine learning methods such as artificial neural network algorithms. This allows the AI model to grasp the laws of the evolutions of the weather system and use it to predict future weather patterns. Here, this is an example of using AI models. In fact, this is a real-world case of Yagi. For those who may have recalled that, Yagi is a super typhoon. It headed to highland and brought widespread damage in the highland island over there. The diagram on the left is the forecast track of the Yagi given by the physical models when Yagi is still over the western North Pacific east of the Philippines. We can see that basically the physical model cannot capture the future movement of Yagi. The black lines is the actual path of Yagi, of course in hindsight. But at that time, when Yagi is still over there, the physical models suggested that it will move towards the east of Taiwan. So basically making no sense to the South China Sea or the South China coast. But at that time, AI model, these are the forecast results of the AI model at the same time. So you can see the AI models generally, we have a few AI models at that moment. So you can see generally a lot of AI models already captured the future movement of Yagi, suggesting a general direction towards highland, although there's an outlier. So in this example, we can see the capability and the potential capabilities of the AI models in enhancing our weather forecast by reducing the forecast uncertainties. Recently, the Hong Kong Observatory is working on ensemble forecast system for AI data-driven models. The idea is run many simulations with slight adjustment to account for uncertainties. The outcome is to show a spectrum of possible weather scenarios. For this example, it is the tropical cyclone tracks, instead of one single prediction. If more simulations agree with a scenario, there will be higher confidence and likelihood with that scenario. Another area of applications of AI is the nowcasting of precipitations. We are all very concerned about whether there is a typhoon coming or heavy rain is going to happen to affect our daily life. So the area of nowcasting of precipitation is an important area of applications of AI in the Hong Kong Observatory. It is well known that, however, rainfall nowcasting is highly challenging because of the randomness of the convective rain cells. They are rather random. They can suddenly generate and decay. If you have a chance to look at the radar imageries on my observatory, when the rain coming towards Hong Kong, you can see sometimes they are rather steady, move from the west to the east and affect us. Then this kind of forecast is more reliable. But sometimes they just disappear or suddenly intensify very quickly over Hong Kong or in the vicinity of Hong Kong. So this is the nature of the convective rain cells. They are highly random. Traditionally, the rainfall nowcasting system make use of computer vision tracking. to predict the movement of convective cells. This method is successful in predicting ring cell movement. However, its limitation is predicting ring cells that develop quickly or decay rapidly. Thus, Hong Kong Observatory started to employ AI in the nowcasting of precipitation in recent years. This is another real-world example. It is May at the same time, but last year. We have a red windstorm warning on the 21st of May last year. The radar imagery on the left shows the ring cells around noon, 12:24. And at 14:24, you can see the ring echoes. When it moved towards the coastal areas, it intensified quickly south of Lantau. This is the forecast result of the traditional nowcasting models using computer check. We can see that it has no idea of this sudden intensifications of ring cells over here. So its forecasts are weaker echoes over here. But this is the result of the AI model. The AI model has the capability to capture this kind of intensifications rather close to Hong Kong. It is useful, but not entirely correct, because you can see when you compare with the actual situations, it has a tendency of over-forecasting. But at least it has some indications. We are not hopeless. Well, these are the simulations given by different AI models. We have different algorithms in the AI model, like Forma, ChatGRU. These are all documented different AI models in scientific journals. Well, we see some potentials of the AI model in predicting this randomness of ring echoes. This is another example of the 15th of March this year. You may recall that on that day there is a high gust affecting the territory in the afternoon. Pattern-wise, the AI models here basically capture the pattern rather well. So we see potentials of the AI models. In addition to AI models using different algorithms, the Hong Kong Observatory is also developing ensemble nowcast members using the diffusion method. Okay, finally, come to the conclusion. The application of artificial intelligence models in weather forecasting still faces some challenges and limitations. The current artificial weather, AI weather forecasting model can only predict provide limited meteorological elements like wind speed, temperatures, and pressure. And its temporal and spatial resolution is not as fine as the traditional numerical weather prediction models. In terms of tropical cyclone track forecast, AI models forecast tends to be underestimated intensity of tropical cyclone. So this is a major limitation of the use of the AI models for tropical cyclone forecasting. In addition, extreme weather has not occurred frequently in the past, and the record-breaking extreme weather events may have never been appeared in the model's training data. So the capability of artificial intelligence model to predict extreme weather events remains to be verified and seen. Currently, the application of artificial intelligence in short and medium-term weather forecasting is still in its early stage. The observatory will refer to the forecast results of AI models when making weather forecasts as well as tropical cyclone track predictions. This can help the observatory to notify the relevant government departments as early as possible to conduct risk assessments as well as preparation work, with a view to reducing the impact of severe weather on the citizens as well as urban infrastructure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cheng, for the comprehensive sharing. Please be seated. In the following session, each speaker will provide a short presentation period to our panel discussion. Now, please welcome our first speaker, Professor Fei Chen, Associate Head and Professor, Division of Environment and Sustainability of HKUST. Mr. Cheng, please.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon. And thank you for staying late. I'm Fei Chen from Hong Kong University of Science and Technology. Very happy to be here, okay, and to share our work to develop the next generation weather and climate models, okay, at Hong Kong UST. So forward. So I think the common interest for us sitting in this room is really about the weather and the climate risk and how we assess them and how we manage them, right? So as a weather and climate scientist, what we do is really to provide the prediction, okay, more accurate prediction of the hazard. Okay, it doesn't matter, it's extreme temperature, heat waves, heavy precipitation, flooding, strong wind, and so on. Okay, but not just a part of the risk, right? Because it's you have this hazard, but you need, okay, what you need to consider what's the exposure of the people, okay, and the infrastructure actually to this hazard, and also how vulnerable this infrastructure and the people are, right? So that really constitutes the risk. But this diagram, okay, the overlapping of the three factors constitute the risk. However, this is not a static process. It's actually dynamic. For instance, Dr. Cheng just talked about the Hong Kong, HKO, early warning system, and that will help, okay, reduce the exposure of infrastructure and people to different types of hazard, like tropical cyclone, heavy precipitation, and so on. So if we all do this, and there's also the nature-based solution, okay, early warning system, all this can actually reduce exposure and reduce the vulnerability, okay, to the hazard. So you can work together, you can reduce the risk. So it's a dynamic process. So at the Hong Kong UST, we have a very long history of developing the weather model. It all started in 1994, okay, with the wind chill warning system for the Hong Kong New Airport, okay, in Dayisan, okay, and in time, so this research expanded to very complex, okay, middle scale weather prediction system that actually coupling with ocean model, so and the wave model. So now they can predict the storm surge, okay, and have this full capability to predict very different, okay, weather-related hazard, okay, to the city of Hong Kong and in the nearby areas. So it all started from 2 scientists, and now our group, okay, is more than 25, okay, people, including students. So, and also we develop probably the most complex, okay, urban modeling system, okay, in any of the Earth system models, because our model have very, very sophisticated representation of how building, okay, influence wind speed, temperature, humidity, and how the city, okay, like Hong Kong, influence the precipitation itself and regional circulation. It's a very complex model, and this model has been used, okay, by more than 160 groups, actually including the Hong Kong Observatory. They use the WRF model as part of their real-time, okay, weather forecast system. So take all this kind of long-term development expertise now in the next few years, okay, at Hong Kong UST, okay, we are developing this next generation of the urban numerical weather prediction models. Okay, because one of the biggest problem, as Dr. Chen mentioned earlier, is really there's no very good weather forecast model that can provide accurate and with sufficient lead time for the very heavy precipitation in tropical cities. There's none. Okay, no, all the models fail. Okay, essentially. So but in the last few years, this new technology allow us to do this because now you are sorry, how I can go back. Now you are able to have a seamless global model with variable resolutions. For instance, you can go very, very coarse resolution over the globe, like 10, 50 kilometers, but always, okay, zoom in down to the city scale, okay, with a sub-kilometer resolution, and eventually, okay, use the AI technology, you can downscale this, okay, to with 10-meter resolution to the neighborhood scales. So you can predict, you can provide the weather and the climate information, okay, at the scales that are relevant, okay, for the policymakers, okay, in terms of how to deal with the infrastructure design, urban planning, economical infrastructure, okay, building, and so on. So we take this, all this new technology now, we are producing, okay, this very high resolution, 4 kilometer, but 50-year reanalysis, okay, of the climate data set. 4 kilometer cover, not just for Hong Kong and the Green Bay area, but cover the entire Southeast Asian, okay, countries, okay, all the way from downscale the climate models, okay, to the city scale, to the farm scale. So our modeling system integrated a lot of advanced, okay, models, land surface model, hydrology model, urban physics, agricultural management, and so on. So so doing this, we can provide a very comprehensive, okay, climate data set, not only for the historical reanalysis, which is important to understand the past risk, but also to provide for the future climate, okay, projections. So we are not working in isolation. We have a pattern of, okay, so this is the one example. Okay, on the left is the best global, okay, climate model reanalysis, roughly 30 kilometer resolution. And on the right is our data set, okay, for this Bangkok tropical cyclone, September 2018, okay, the past reanalysis. And you look at that's the best, okay, global model can produce. Very coarse resolution that don't capture the tropical cyclone dynamics. But on the contrast, on the right, okay, with 4 kilometer, with the right model physics, you produce textbook-like tropical cyclone. Okay, very detailed, typhoon eye, very detailed rim bands, okay, with the right intensity. It's incredibly good, okay, to this model. So we don't work in isolation, okay. HKO, for instance, is the government agency, okay, responsible for issuing prediction and warning. In what way, okay, as an academic institution is really on the research side to develop the models that can be used, okay, at the various weather center, okay. Our partners include, obviously, HKO and different weather agencies, okay, in the Southeast Asian country, but also research group and NGOs like Red Cross, because to us, the most important thing is it doesn't matter how accurate, okay, our forecast or climate data are if we cannot reach, okay, to the people who need it. There's no use of it, right? So how you connect with the NGOs and other policymakers and end users, so for them to make this data actionable. That's, I mean, in order to engage them. So that's our challenge, but very useful things to do. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Cheng. Please be seated. Next, please welcome Mr. Samuel Monschein, Director of Business and Strategy of Intensel. Mr. Monschein, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Samuel Monschein, Director of Business and Strategy at Intensel, the digital platform for climate risk. It's become clear that climate risks and their impacts are increasing, and it's become very vital that we're able to predict and adapt to these scenarios. Because even in a net zero world, it's expected that these climate impacts will continue to increase and potentially cause the contraction between 3 and 14% of GDP by 2030 due to these events. So at Intensel, we look to answer the question, what if you could measure and price the climate risk of any single building, asset, or company globally? And what if we could anticipate the severity of these events where there's little historical precedent or none at all? And what if you knew exactly where to avoid the losses and to identify the climate opportunities? Well, at Intensel, we've developed a SaaS-based platform where you can insert assets at a very granular level. And using the latest modeling capabilities based on physics-based dynamic climate models and an interactive cloud platform, we're able to assess the dollar value at risk based on different scenarios, combining the insurance and financial models to translate this climate value into dollar impact. Our high-resolution data, both at asset level and climate level, has terabytes of global satellite imagery and terrain models, includes 1.3 billion building footprints. We cover over 10 different climate hazards, as well as over 6 scenarios over time horizons ranging between 2020 and 2100. Through this, we look at the different hazards and the data that comes with that based on IPCC, as well as high-resolution topography data, downscaled satellite imagery, as well as proprietary climate models. We combine that with the asset exposure, so based upon the asset level data, that ranges from the size of the asset, the area of it, the number of floors, the construction type, and the use of the building, as well as the financial information such as valuation, replacement cost, and the revenues. With that, we can combine that with the vulnerability, so the asset level, resilience, and mitigation, so what kind of, say, drainage it has, how far away it is from manholes, for example, when it comes to both the public and asset level mitigations. And with that combined, we can determine the climate value at risk, which is going to be a combination of both the physical damages to a structure, as well as the business interruptions due to these events happening. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to sharing more with you.
Thank you very much for Mr. Monschein's sharing. And now here comes the panel discussion session. Please welcome our moderator, Ms. Suki Han, Assistant Manager of Policy and Research, BEC. Let's also invite our panelists to join us on stage. They are Professor Chen. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for missing one more presentation. So sorry for that. Yes, next we have also Mr. Chen, Senior Manager, Sustainability of REIT. Mr. Chen, please.
Okay. I was hoping I got out of that one, but okay. For those of you who came to the last one of these, I'm mainly here because my boss made an ill-advised promise on talking more about this round, so here I am. I'll keep it short and do a bit of scene setting first. As Samuel alluded to just now, extreme weather events are an operational reality, no doubt, for a lot of real estate companies now, and especially for Link. A lot of you would have seen this photo, if not in the news, in 2023 September, then in many sustainability, climate risk-related presentations. Us and MTR, of course, are kind of the poster child now for being hit by extreme events, kind of like the updated version of Typhoon Mangkhut. So clearly, it's a very material issue for us. After that, of course, we invested a lot of money into the climate adaptation measures, more than 5 million Hong Kong dollars, not just in Temple Mall in Wong Tai Sin, as you just saw, but across our portfolio. But beyond that, the conventional response would be reactive. So we file the claims for the damages, we tell our insurers our losses, and we brace for a hike in our premiums, our insurance premiums. This year, however, after our investment, we chose a slightly different approach and kind of really took the initiative. So what we did was we took quantifiable evidence of what we did in terms of adaptation, how much risk we actually reduced, and consolidated all that and presented that at a resilience-focused insurance roadshow. So we lined up a panel of 20 to 30 insurers organized by our broker, Marsh, and we said, this is what we did across our portfolio, not just in Temple Mall, to reduce our flooding risk. So I don't have time to go through all of these, but these include hard measures like flood barriers, to pipe replacements, to the general stuff like sandbags, but also soft measures, and this is, I think, quite important as well in terms of frontline training, in terms of drills, in terms of tenant readiness, increasing that as well. For example, if I gave a sump pump to any of you in the room, you would not know what to do with it. Neither would I. So we need to make sure that if we give that to somebody in property management, they know what to do with it. So these are the kind of drills, these are the kind of training we need to be ensuring as well. And we're saying to our insurers, this is the whole suite of measures that we have put in place. The key thing I want to highlight here is we're not saying Link is doing much better than any of other real estate companies. This is maybe average, maybe slightly above average. But the key thing here is that we're taking this to the insurers. We're saying, this is what we did. How are you going to price this in? At around the same time, we also collaborated with one of our insurers, AXA, on a proof of concept on this idea of sustainability, resilience-linked insurance. And so what they did was looking at Temple more specifically. They did the climate risk scenarios, assessed our exposure, similar to how Samuel was describing, but they also looked into, from a risk engineering perspective, what we did in terms of mitigation and adaptation. So that would include the floodgates we've put in. From an engineering perspective, what kind of standards are these floodgates meeting? Is it Hong Kong standards? Is it Asia? Is it the most stringent ones from the US? How good are emergency response plans? So based on that, they offered suggestions, improvements, but the most important thing was they said, based on what we did, from a financial perspective, we could be asking for a 10 to 20% decrease in insurance premiums. And 2 months after that, when we got to our insurance renewal in 2024, this is what we achieved. We got an 11.7% premium reduction, and that overcompensates for the initial slight increase in premium hikes after the rainstorm. More interestingly, in the second year, we also got a 7.5% discount if our loss ratio goes below 60%. So that is an incentive for us to continue investing into climate resilience, similar to, for example, a sustainably linked loan. I realize I'm running out of time now, but this is just a quote to show that our renewal and the terms we got is not just because our broker was, did a fantastic job or because of a softening of the market. The insurers do appreciate that we are reducing the risk exposure for them as well. So just to wrap up, climate adaptation for us is not just a defensive measure, it is also a creative value. And in this climate, in terms of ESG, in terms of sustainability, this is what our investors are asking for. And that, in terms of a financial material perspective, I think is absolutely key. And we're not saying that Link, again, did fantastically at adaptation. We're saying that we want to see more real estate leaders, more insurance companies coming to the table and talking about how to reduce this risk together and find that win-win solution. That's all from me. Thank you.
And so sorry for the confusion.
No worries.
Would you please stay on stage for the panel discussion? Here really comes to this discussion part. So may I please invite our moderator, Ms. Suki Han, Assistant Manager of Policy and Research of BEC. Let's also invite our other panelists to join us on stage. They are Professor Fei Chen again, and also Mr. Samuel Monschein. As a reminder, online participants are welcome to use the Q&A box if you have any questions for our speakers. For the audience in the room, please raise your hands and our colleagues will pass through the mic. Just wait for a while the hotel staff is setting the stage. Thank you so much, and you may now take a seat.
Thank you, and thanks everyone for introducing about your work and then what your company's work. But I might ask you to introduce briefly about your background and what you do at the company to us.
Yeah. Well, I'm Samuel Monschein. Again, I'm with Intensel, and specifically, I do business and strategy. So I work with clients, helping them better understand the science and the product itself, as well as working with our tech team to better improve our offering, and as well as work with our climate scientists to better understand what they need to better improve our product as well.
Thank you. And how about then, Professor, can you tell us about your research focus and then your group, your growing group?
Okay. Yeah. So I joined Hong Kong UST about a year and a half ago. Okay. But before that, I worked at the National Center for Atmospheric Research in the USA. So my team, okay, in our center is really responsible for developing weather and climate models. We call community models. That has been widely used, okay, in the entire world, okay, by different weather agencies, okay, again, including the HKO, okay, our model developed is part of their operational model suite. So, I mean, the thing attracted me, okay, to Hong Kong, as explained to Simon, okay, a few minutes ago, is that I have two good friends, okay, at the Hong Kong UST. We worked together for more than 20 years. So about 2 years ago, they called me, say, hey, you developed this fantastic urban model. You did a lot of research in terms of the weather and the climate in cities. But hey, I mean, the place you are in Colorado, there's no really city. Okay, and Hong Kong with a fantastic, okay, infrastructure and very dense populations, and there is no better place to do the urban weather and climate research in Hong Kong. So that's why I come here, okay, to build the group and develop the next generation models.
All right, thank you so much, Professor. And then how about Udi, your team? And
Yeah, I've been at Link 2 years now, mainly leading sustainability strategy, with a particular focus, especially recently, on climate adaptation.
Okay, all right, thank you. And then, so I'd like to go back to Professor Fei about your work, since you mentioned about, you said the important to make the climate science to be actionable. And then the data is also chaotic, as HKO also mentioned. So what's the biggest challenge in your research?
I think there are three, okay, I think challenge. One is, okay, I mean, well, a lot of people talking about the AI, right, in the previous talks and so on. But the challenge of using the AI in the climate science, there are several. Okay, one is really about the data quality and the coverage, right? Because you need the data to feed the AI model. And unfortunately, the climate model and the weather model, okay, they have gaps, okay, in terms of spatial and temporal resolutions, okay, and how you bridge this gap, okay, into the AI, that's a big challenge, okay. The second thing is really, I mean, people use the AI as a black box, right? They produce something, okay, we don't understand. But when we talk to the policymakers, they need an explanation, right? So how you make the AI work, okay, to be explainable, okay, that's to me, it's a very challenging. But it is opportunities. I mean, because the AI model can run very fast, okay, faster than our traditional physical model, so they can help, okay, us to process the data and downscaling the data to some of the scales a physical model can never be, okay, in terms of the meter resolution, for instance, right? And also they can help us to increase our forecast accuracy, okay, because of the, when you do the data integration, you get a better way to verify the data to improve models. So there's a challenge, but also opportunities.
Great to hear that both risk and opportunities, and then in research. And I wanted to see how they're gonna turn into real world. So Samuel, I wanna ask about your platform you mentioned, your company developed. So who are your customers? So which sector or what assets would consider using your service?
Yeah, so when it comes to the types of customers we have, it ranges. It could be from corporates to asset managers, real estate owners, operators, developers, could go into utilities, infrastructure, as well as financial institution. So anyone that has interest in a physical asset or a physical location would find use for this product. And the range of why they use it is pretty broad. So number one being disclosure. So, I mean, it's a requirement in Hong Kong that they must disclose certain elements. So that tends to be the bread and butter or the entry point to our clients entering. From that, again, we provide the actual hazard data itself. So when it comes to things like flood depths, wind speeds, annual frequency chances of landslide and wildfire. And then we can give a financial dollar impact to that. So they can then take that and either use that internally when it comes to their decision making for, okay, what kind of operational losses could they potentially take? What kind of physical losses could happen to their structures? And then from there, they can move to the adaptation or mitigation portion. So they can look further and say, okay, we have these mitigated features already on our asset. Say we have a certain number of drainage systems and we're prepared. They can then take those into account and see what kind of reduction they might have in that impact for both the hazard variable itself and the financial impact. And then they can go even further. They could move to the element of where they do a deep dive, is what we call it, that allows for like hydraulic modeling when it comes to looking at specific drainage locations throughout the asset, how the water flows from the surrounding terrain, what areas will be exposed and at what depth, how much can they drain from their pipes at this time. So there's quite a large range of how this data can be used.
Mm-hmm. And also, Professor just mentioned that in research, they look at climate risk and opportunities. So in your work, so how does your platform looking at climate-related opportunities in addition to risks?
Yeah, certainly. So one potential opportunity comes with renewable energy when it comes to wind or solar, right? For example, solar irradiance in certain areas in the future may potentially increase. So that's something that could be potentially looked at. Maybe that's a better spot for solar power. And when it comes to wind density and wind speeds, those are also changing depending on location. A client might know where they need to upgrade their wind turbines, what's important to focus on there, or where they could potentially expand. And then there's also the insurance aspect of it, right? When it comes to adaptation, for example, the opportunities that come with investing in those solutions through insurance companies. And then there is the further focus on what actual threats there are at that specific location. So is this asset actually exposed, right? Say, take, for example, you have two buildings that are 100 meters apart. Potentially one might have, due to its terrain, large amounts of potential rainfall flooding. The other one, if you look at these forward-looking models and the digital elevation models in the area, will have much less risk with the way the drainage is at that location. Should they have the same insurance premium, even though they're right next to each other? Probably not, and that's something that can be taken to these insurance companies to negotiate and potentially have a lower premium.
Yeah, so it's just actually the case in point, what Woody just showcased about the proof of concept your team is working was your insurance company, and for that I'm wondering, you mentioned about your adaptation measures, right? Your resilience measure, like the flooding gate, the sandbags, and then all the trainings. So what is the most effective resilience measures?
Yeah, so I didn't have too much time to expand on that infographic, but I think the most impactful, of course, would be the relocation of the pump room up from the basement floor to the first floor. I think that was definitely the most important thing to do. The reason why the basement floor got flooded is because the pump room was itself flooded. The controls panels was already 3 meters high in the basement floor, but even that got flooded, and that's why then the tenant space was infiltrated with the flood waters. But beyond that already is quite a large capex in terms of relocating an entire pump room. Beyond that, then it's the floodgates, and also something as simple as replacing the drain covers. Previously, for aesthetic reasons, we had slits in the drainages as the drainage points. And now we've replaced those with much larger holes, and that itself increases the efficiency by more than 150% in terms of drainages. It might not look as good, but it's simple things like these which really make an impact, and these are things that AXA, as an insurance risk perspective, have taken into account, and also the rest of our insurers have also commended us on in terms of measures. So these are the the adaptation measures, but also we're looking at, as Samuel was saying, the opportunities that could come out of that as well.
Yeah, because you also said, sorry, for linked REIT go from a reactive to proactive, way to do that. And then also, how do you calculate the, the capex? You have upfront investment, and then how do you calculate the payback period when you get the premium reduced?
So on your point about being reactive, it's actually quite interesting. The first thing we did after the black rainstorm is that we looked into our insurance history. And it turns out nobody had actually looked at that before. And you can see a clear increase in premiums after Typhoon Mangkhut in 2018. And beyond that, we actually had to change our lead insurer because they were withdrawing capacity from Hong Kong. So there's a clear material impact of these extreme events already, both in terms of premiums and also in terms of the way that we're dealing with insurance. Of course, it's not just Hong Kong, you're seeing that in the US as well. A lot of properties are becoming uninsurable. So if we continue to be reactive, we're just going to get increasingly high premiums, and at some point we're not going to be able, that will be the actual climate value at risk. Because we won't be able to offset those costs to our insurers if it becomes insurable. So that's why we're trying to take that active approach going forward. Remind me, what was the second part of the question?
Yes, basically, how do you calculate your payback?
The ROI. Yeah. So this kind of product hasn't been done in Hong Kong or APAC before. So we can estimate the capex, as I said, 5 million Hong Kong dollars in terms of the works included, including the replacement of the pipes and so on. But we're not able to calculate the return yet because we don't know the long-term impact of the sustainability resilience-linked insurance that we have at the moment. So if that continues, then we can say that the ROI is probably around 5 years. But we're not sure how the insurance market whether they'll continue to react positively. We're hoping that this becomes a trend and a more formalized product, but it depends very much on that.
Yeah, for sure. And also, I guess from the climate model, HKU professor also shared it actually changed faster than 5 years. It changed instantly, right? And then it definitely recommended for all businesses in Hong Kong and also beyond Hong Kong to go from a reactive to proactive perspective when looking at climate risk to the resilience and to the business resilience. Yeah, and then since we also look at, we have different institutions, different research groups looking at climate modeling, climate science, and then it's important to see how they're gonna inform, on the one hand, policy making, and on the other hand, business implementation actions. So I wanna come back and ask ask Fei, so how does climate science and climate modeling inform better policy making in Hong Kong?
Yeah, I think there are several aspects involved in that. You have probably already heard about that because I think as climate science is the one of the things we can do is provide a very high resolution, okay, and actionable data set, okay, because we talk about the risk assessment, risk management, they're all based on the data, right? Provide reliable data, relevant data, and meaningful data, okay, for the different groups that at the scale, okay, spatial scale and temporal scale, okay, they need. For instance, we at the Hong Kong UST, we develop a very high resolution model, 1 kilometer, okay, data site. And that really actually going to be relevant, okay, for the infrastructure design, urban design. So how will academy world can help, okay, policy makers in terms of inform them, in terms of the urban policy and the urban governance, okay, and also in terms of the how, as you said, I think this is very important in terms of the reactive, okay, versus proactive. So in terms of proactive, I think we need really the academic institutions, public sector and private sector actually to co-develop, okay, the climate risk data set, and also to co-design the climate adaptation solutions, okay, because one. There are different scenarios, okay, we can consider, and based on the scenario, what type of a solution you can provide to the society. So a lot of work to do.
Yeah, for sure. And then since you also researched on climate science modeling in different parts of the world, different cities, also for Samuel, your clients also located in different cities as what the case study you showcased. So how well prepared is Hong Kong in terms of climate risk management or climate risk preparedness to all of you, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, Hong Kong is a pretty robust system in place for mitigated measures for being prepared for all this. Say, for example, drainage, how they take care of managing terrain and slopes for landslide. When it comes to the building regulations themselves, they are pretty robust. But saying that, as an example that Woody showed, there's still risks associated with these events happening. Even though the building code is met, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's prepared for these forward-looking scenarios that are getting more intense. So it's important that private companies look ahead at these different scenarios and these different potential hazards that could affect them, and make sure that they adapt towards that.
And Professor, you have something to add?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very impressed actually by how Hong Kong is robust and also resilient. Okay, because I mean, black rain. Just take this example, right? In the evening, black rain hit the Hong Kong, flooded the Huangdaxian or MTR, disrupt our business, and so on. And the trees falling down, the streets are entire mess. But guess what? The next morning, everything come back to normal. Okay, and I used to live in New York City. Okay, but once a storm hits, doesn't matter, it's an ice storm, okay, heavy precipitation, blackout. Okay, the minimum is probably a day, maximum 3 weeks. It's very hard to imagine Hong Kong, the electricity goes off for even a minute, right? Because we take an elevator all the time. It's very hard to imagine our system to be broke. So Hong Kong is very resilient because of thanks to the redundancy and the duplication, okay, of the double kind of security of the system. Very impressed. But again, take the black rain as an example. Okay, the media says, okay, this is a once, okay, 100-year event, right? If you read, all this Southern China morning news and so on. But it's misleading. If you pay attention to what Dr. Cheng showed from HKUST observations, all this heavy precipitation record, okay, is broken every 10 years in the last 40 years. So a 100-year event now become 5 years. So the question is, are we prepared for that? Right? Are we prepared for that? I don't know. Okay, I think it's robust for the current climate system, but if the extreme become more often, more severe, we may get a problem too. So to me, there's still a lot of work to do in terms of how we foresee what's going up, okay, and be proactive to that.
Yeah, that's what we call Hong Kong speed. Everything
speed.
is very fast. And also the example Woody showcased about, Wang Daxing, that case, and then how private sectors can take actions and then go very fast in terms of respond to it.
Yeah,
and then,
just wanted to add on that point. I think definitely in terms of response, Hong Kong is very fast. We had 3 fire trucks at Temple Mall helping us pump out the water within 24 hours. And that kind of response is superb. That's a kind of support from the government. And beyond the pumping out of the water, then there's actually the contractors, then there's also the people coming in for the fitting out, repairs, maintenance. Even that can be a bit of a scramble after an extreme event. For example, MTR will be looking for that, other property developers or managers. So that can be a bit of a scramble, and that's something that if further climate scenarios, as the professor was saying, and it becomes more severe and more people affected, that's something that from an systems level resilience that might have to be improved upon. If everybody's looking for people to fix things, then inevitably some people will be left out or has to wait longer. But beyond that, in the more longer time scale, we've been talking to the Drainage Service Department regularly since the Black Rainstorm, and they have shared a lot of very extensive plans, comprehensive plans on improving the resilience of the areas like Samapeng and Taiwan. And honestly, what they do is more important than what Link itself can do, in terms of improving the resilience of the whole community. So I'd say the key takeaway here is we Link can't do everything. We need all the stakeholders, the fire services, drainage services, contractors, repairs, everybody to be ready, essentially.
Yeah, all stakeholders are very important, and in this setting, when it comes to our city, so not just the public sector, like the government, the private sectors, like all the businesses, as well as the citizens. Every single Hong Kong citizens will be impacted by climate risk. So I'm wondering, what are the social impact of climate risk, and then management, and how to reach the resilience?
So on our side, we've been talking a lot about flooding, but if we're talking about social impact, community impact, I think the biggest climate risk going forward would be heat waves, extreme heat in Hong Kong. Everybody here, I'm sure, would agree that Hong Kong is getting warmer. Link's main clientele in terms of shoppers are the elderly, the community, especially given an aging population. So, we do, of course, have aircon, but of course, getting to our malls from their homes, from the housing estates, will they suffer in terms of extreme heat? Is that something we need to be looking into and helping them to adapt? That's something that we're deep diving into going forward as well.
Certainly. So how to empower or how to protect the society, also the most needed group of people in society is really important for everybody, for Hong Kong as a whole. Also, I just want to be conscious of time, so just wanted to hear your expectations for looking to the future, how AI and the climate science can help private sectors. That's a question to all of you.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the forward-looking predictive modeling, I think that can be very useful, especially when it comes to developing future adaptation, which is something I think anyone that has interest in physical properties or real estate should look forward into, because it is pretty vital, as we can see, the costs that come with failing to meet these, and then the potential opportunities that come with investing in these solutions. And AI can definitely help with that.
Thank you, Samuel. And how about Fei? What do you think? Your expectations, for having adopting more AI models, AI climate models, and help with climate resilience in Hong Kong.
So you ask for public
your expectations,
sector?
yes.
Okay, yeah. Well, I think in terms of the public sector, is really we have to institutionalize the climate risk in the design of the urban infrastructure and economical structures. And in terms of the private sector, you need a public better data set, and AI certainly can help. And in terms of the people, I think that's the most important point you raised is how for the public education and awareness, heat wave is one good example. So when we talk to elderly people, their usual reaction is, oh, it's hot, yeah. But so what? I mean, it's been hot in the last 30 years, right? I'm more than 65 years old. I survived all the heat waves. Yes, that's true. But today's heat is different from yesterday's heat, from heat 10 years ago, right? It's become more extreme. So a lot of people didn't realize this, and they probably don't really believe, something they heard about. So for us, it's really to work with the organization that actually work with these people, like a Red Cross, the NGOs, like your organization, actually working with this vulnerable group, educated them. So I think that's only in one way work together, and we can build a more resilient city. But I really have a very high expectation because to me, Hong Kong again is very unique, with a very, very dense population, and also economical infrastructure. Everything we do here, is kind of a innovation solutions you guys, proposed, has a lot of implications for the other cities to learn from. Okay, it's perfect. Okay, test bed and also a regional hub. Okay, for testing, evaluating all these innovative solutions. Thank you.
And thanks, Professor. And how about Udi? What do you think, what's your expectations for the sustainability, resilience-linked insurance, and then, future?
Yeah, I'll try and keep it short. I'm aware that we're running out of time. What I would love to see, and I've been hearing that from insurers and reinsurers as well, is the data has to go beyond the climate modeling side and the scenario side. They would love to see that side being combined more with the adaptation measures that both the government and the private sector are putting into place. So my ideal scenario would be if we had these climate scenarios mapped with exact measures that different real estate leaders have put in place, overlaid on top of that with government measures, so that there's a very comprehensive model and map showing the resilience of the entire Hong Kong community. I think that would be my ideal dream scenario, and that would definitely help the insurers, reinsurers price that risk much more accurately.
That's right. And then it's great to see that Hong Kong, such as stock exchange for listed companies, start to require for disclosure on climate-related information following the ISSB standards, as well as we also see, at BEC. So I'm also working on the Climate Change Business Forum, and then part of our research focus is on climate adaptation and resilience. So that's where we want to engage more businesses, stakeholders, to look at the climate risk and how to get adaptation, and then adaptation measures, and how to effectively manage your risk, and how to prepare better, how to be more sustainable, not just environmentally, but also economically for the company's growth long term. So that's really great, and I want to look forward to engaging more businesses and all our stakeholders in Hong Kong on that effort. And then I'd like to thank other panelists today for joining the wonderful discussion today. And then thank you, everyone.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure.
So, thank you. Yeah, and now may I also invite you to come forward to the stage and take a group photo. Thanks again, everyone, and please take your seats.